So I did a video sharing all of my favorite makeup products from the drugstore in 2024. If you want to check it out, I'll link that video below. In that video, I told you that I had a really long list of products and I really had to narrow it down. So I chose 5 products in every category. And there were so many products that almost made that list. And I really didn't want to take them off, but I was trying to choose the best of the best. And those really were my most used favorites, my holy grail staples, the products that I will be reaching for every single day, even as we head into 2025. But I asked you if you wanted to see like a runner-up video, a second place video, and a lot of you said you did. So that's what I have for you today. These products are really, really great. The reason most of these didn't make the list is because I didn't have them long enough. They launched later in the year. And in that video, I really tried to choose products I was using consistently for months and months. And then the other reason these products maybe didn't make that first video is because there were just 5 products I really felt super passionately about. So something had to go, and it was these. None of them are bad quality. None of them are things that I feel like about. They really are still top favorites, things I really love, just not quite as high on my list as the last products, or not as they haven't been in my collection quite as long. So anyway, if you want to hear more about some affordable favorites I loved, that's what today's video is all about. I think this is the end of my wrap-up videos, or I might have 1 or 2 left, but I'll link all of the ones I've done in the description box below in case you like those like year-end review videos. So let's get started. In my last video, I started with face products, so let's switch it up. Let's start with cheek products, but I'll put timestamps or chapters in the description box so you can jump ahead. Let's start with this product from ColourPop. If I was doing my top 6 products, this would have absolutely made the initial video. Honestly, the only reason it didn't is because I could not choose a product to take off of my top 5 and put this one in, but I really do love it equally as much as the other products. It's from ColourPop. It is their lip and cheek balm. So they have 8 different shades. I have 3 that I'll swatch for you in today's video. I have talked about these a lot on my channel. These really surprised me because when they initially launched them, I was like, those look cute. They're kind of fun. I liked the clear packaging, the heart shape, but I was like, I don't really know that I need that or it's going to be anything amazing. I know that they had launched some sort of like balmy type blush in the past, and I kind of felt indifferent about it. Then I tried them and I could not put them down. I feel like this is the perfect cream blush formula because it's not too sheer, it's not too pigmented, but you can sheer it out or really build it up. So it's really customizable. You can wear it a lot of different ways. It goes on perfectly no matter how you like to apply your makeup, whether that is with a sponge, your fingers, a brush, and it just melts into the skin in the most beautiful way. It's not too balmy or too thin. A lot of cream blushes are very soft, really natural on the skin and a little bit oily, so they look good initially, but they don't last. And some cream blushes are a little bit too rich, a little too intense, so they might be, too much depending on what you usually go for. This does look dewy on the skin, but it's a slightly thicker texture. So even though you get like that really pretty glowy look that you might get with more of a balmy cream blush that won't last, this one actually stays in place all day long, which is amazing. You can layer it over lightly set makeup. You can layer it directly on foundation and set it with powder. Either way that you like to wear your cream blush, this will work for you, and it looks so good every single time. ColourPop also launched liquid blushes this year. I feel like a lot of brands did liquid blushes. I did swatches before I filmed this video, and I feel like I applied a little bit too much. If you go in with a light amount, you can definitely get more of a natural look. And, compared to the Rare Beauty liquid blushes, I know I always compare liquid blushes to those, but I feel like those are the most widely known. These are a little bit more natural. They're a little bit easier to work with. They actually describe them, or the name on the packaging says weightless liquid blush, which I do feel like is the perfect description because they have that light, almost kind of like airy feel on the skin. So you can blend them out and blend them in to the point where they don't look too intense, but you can build them up as well. Because the formula is so thin, they're just easy to work with. They don't dry down too fast, they blend out easily, and they have a little bit of a glow to them. But I would say in the end, like once they dry down, they almost look a little bit more satin on the skin. I would say if you want like a true glow, go with the cream formula. But if you like something that, just dries down and looks a little bit more natural on the skin in terms of finish and color, I would go with these. Now, kind of the opposite of those, Flower Beauty came out with their Ultralight liquid blushes. These are super pigmented, and that's the reason why I didn't reach for them as much as other formulas I loved this year. I think these could absolutely be a top favorite for you if you are into a super intense liquid blush that dries down to more of a matte finish. I was really hoping that they were going to be glowy, kind of similar to like the Charlotte Tilbury blushes that come with the sponge tip applicator. Flower Beauty's liquid highlighters, in my opinion, are like an exact dupe for Charlotte Tilbury's liquid highlighters. And then they did the liquid contours, and people weren't as much of a fan of those. And then they did the liquid blushes. I think that these are really good. The formula, in my opinion, is very, very close to the liquid contour in that it dries down fast, it's very intense and really rich. So you don't have as much time to work with this formula as you do like the ColourPop formula, the e.l.f. formula, so that's something to note. But if pigment is what you go for, if you want like a super intense look, these are a great option. They're also very, very long wearing, probably the longest lasting liquid blushes I've tried. So I use them on occasion, not as much as some of the other formulas, but in the end, even though they're not my most worn formula, I definitely think they're one of the highest quality formulas we saw from a drugstore brand in 2024. The last blush that I wanted to talk about in today's video is from Essence. The reason this one did not make my top 5 is because I only tried one shade from the line, and occasionally if I only try one shade, I might say it's like a top holy grail favorite, but usually I like to try a little bit more because sometimes the formula can vary shade to shade, and I didn't try anything else. I did order another shade, but it came shattered, so I've been meaning to go into an actual Ulta store and pick up another shade just because I don't want to order it in case it comes shattered again. It is a very soft formula, so I feel like there is a high chance that could happen. This is the Blush Crush, and I have the shade Caramel Latte. Actually, mine kind of looks like it's breaking. I don't think I dropped this, but because it is such a soft formula, I feel like you have to be very careful with it. It's not a formula that I personally would travel with because it just seems really fragile. Anyway, this looks amazing on the skin. It has a very beautiful, soft, diffused finish. So if you deal with texture like me, this is a great option because it just creates the most gorgeous, soft, smooth glow. There's definitely like a nice luminous glow, but it's not over the top. It's not metallic. It's not too intense. It looks really natural and pretty. I feel like this is a great option if you're into the bronzing trend. This shade specifically, Caramel Latte, because it does give you kind of like that bronzer blush look with a little bit of a glow. So you could skip highlighter, skip blush and bronzer and just go in with this product. Okay, the fifth cheek product in this category is from the brand Pretty Smart. I tried a lot of their products in 2024. They became one of my favorite brands. They are a Walmart exclusive, although I think you can order their products directly from their website as well, but they were created by the creators of the Balm. So I find that a lot of the formulas are somewhat similar to products I've tried from the Balm, and I picked up the all-in-one face palette. They have a couple of different options. This one comes with three highlighters, but I guess you could technically use that pink one as a blush as well. This just looks really pretty on the skin. It's not overly glowy, and I love an intense highlighter. My favorite formula is the Rare Beauty highlighter, but there are days where I want something a little bit more subtle, and on those days, I'll reach for this. I think a nice highlighter palette is still a staple in my collection. I use this one, and I use the Flower Beauty highlighter palette a lot. That's actually what I have on today, and it's just nice because you can mix the shades. You can go in with one. It's always nice to have a couple of different options, and I will use these as inner corner highlights. I'll use them on the eyes. And again, I just like them because they're a little bit softer. They're not quite as intense as other highlighter formulas I have in my collection. And I kind of found myself reaching for like a very intense highlighter this year, but there were days where I just wanted something a little bit more subtle. And when that was the case, I used this product. 2024 was the year of drugstore lip products for me. There were so many good launches, lip balms, lip oils, lip glosses, lipsticks, that I'm kind of convinced I really just don't need to buy a lot of high-end lip products as we head into 2025. I did do a lip product declutter video. I don't know if that's up on my channel or it's going up soon, but in that video, I told you I'm just cutting way back on lip products because I have more than enough, and I have so many good formulas that look amazing, that feel so good. So these did not make the initial video, mostly because a lot of these launched in like the second half or kind of like the fourth quarter of 2024. But I can safely say these are some of the best formulas I've seen in a really long time. So I actually have two different lip balm formulas to share with you. I've been enjoying just like a regular lip balm these days. I mean, there are all different variations. There are like liquid lip balms. There are some that are a little bit more soft and subtle. Do I have three? I have three lip balms to talk about. I feel like day to day, a good lip balm is usually what I'm reaching for. Nothing too over the top or intense, just something comfortable and pretty on the lips. gloss. Let's start with this formula from Revolution Beauty. These are the Juicy Peptide Lip Balms. These kind of feel like a lip balm lip gloss hybrid. They probably lean a little bit more in the direction of a lip gloss than a true lip balm, but if you like the idea of a liquid lip balm, something that comes in a squeeze tube that looks really glossy, it feels really nice on the lips, these are a great option. They smell so good and they look really pretty. They're very, very sheer, so they don't give a lot of color. They do have different scents, so I would choose one based on the color. If you want clear, they do have a clear one, but I think my personal favorite is probably strawberry. I've really been into strawberry scented lip products lately, and this one just gives like a hint of color that's really pretty. So if you like the idea of like a glossy lip balm, something similar to maybe like the Summer Fridays lip balms, but maybe a little bit more on the glossy side, these are a great option. Definitely not a Summer Fridays dupe, but I think I actually found the perfect Summer Fridays dupe that I'll share in an upcoming video. I'm just still testing them out for like another couple wears just to make sure before I say that, because I feel like that is a big claim, but I do love these. They're really affordable and they smell really good. If you want a true lip balm, like something that just feels like an old school lip balm, really moisturizing, but not overly glossy, this is the perfect option. It's from Catrice. It's a little bit of a newer launch. It's called the Care and Colors Lip Balm. So these actually come in quite a few shades. I'll swatch a few for you. I just double checked. These actually come in 7 different shades. They retail for $6. You can buy them from the Catrice website or directly from Amazon as well. These just feel good on the lips. They're a typical balm, so they're not too glossy. They're not necessarily the longest lasting formula, but they add like a nice light layer of moisture to the lips. They're easy to reapply throughout the day. Weirdly enough, my favorite one has been the shade Everyday 24/7, which is just a clear. I find myself reaching for this one quite a bit throughout the day. If you do want a nice hint of color, there are shades that have a little bit of color as well. Some are slightly more intense than others, but in the end, they're all pretty sheer, pretty soft and natural on the lips. So they're great on their own. They're nice over a little bit of liner if you want to define your lips ahead of time and then just add this on top, and they're really easy to apply. I think the packaging looks pretty. It's just kind of like this transparent looking tube that's tinted pink. It doesn't feel luxurious, like it doesn't have any, well, I mean, it feels fine. It doesn't feel super weighted or anything like that, but I think they look really pretty on top of that. So a great affordable daily option. When I initially tested this formula from Essence, I was like, oh, is that a good dupe for the Makeup by Mario Moisture Glow Plumping Lip Serums? Because it has like that similar melty formula. It comes in this twist up packaging. It's definitely not a dupe. I feel like it is a somewhat similar product, but it's not as thin or as melty as the Makeup by Mario formula, which might actually make this a better alternative for you. Those Makeup by Mario lip products are kind of like glossy. They're kind of like glosses in a click up stick format. They're thinner than Tarte and they're really pretty on the lips, but sometimes that's not the type of formula I want. I want something that's a little bit more solid. And when that's the case, I do really enjoy these. These are described as glossy butter balms, or that's the official name, and I feel like that's the perfect description. They're not as thin as a lot of those other click up sticks, and I feel like they lean more in the direction of a traditional lip balm, but they have a super glossy finish. Really moisturizing, very comfortable. Some of the shades have a little bit more pigment than others. So there is a clear one. I also have this green one, which it doesn't look green on the lips, but it smells really good. What's the official name? There's no name on these. I think they were on the tags, which I actually took off. The purple one is so pretty because it actually just like lightly cools down whatever lip product you're wearing. So I'll usually throw this on top of a lipstick that leans a little bit too warm. And I love the effect because it's very subtle. So it adds like a little bit of gloss and then it just kind of cools things down slightly. I also like the chocolate one too when I want like a cooler toned nude on the lips. These are pretty scented. Some of them have like that artificial kind of sweet candy-like scent, and whatever they're described as, that's what they smell like. And I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but like this one smells like chocolate. I think there's a strawberry one. So the names are pretty accurate. Just keep in mind they're pretty scented. The Catrice ones, I don't think I said, these kind of have like a shea butter smell to them. They're not too intense. Yeah, they do have shea butter. That's what I get out of these, like a vanilla kind of shea butter scent, something a little bit more subtle. I originally had this formula in my top 5. And again, I ended up taking it off because I had to make room for something else. But I was really impressed by this formula from e.l.f. It's the Sun Boss Gloss Broad Spectrum SPF 25 Lip Gloss. So I have 2 different shades. I like these because they have sunscreen in them. And something that I tend to forget when I'm applying sunscreen is my lips. I don't anymore because I actually noticed that I get a lot of freckles around my lips. And it's because, I mean, I get a lot of freckles anyway. My mom's a redhead, and I definitely got that trait from her. I have freckles everywhere. It's inevitable. But I did notice that like throughout the summer, I would be really great at applying sunscreen, but I would get a lot of freckles around my lips. And it's because I would tend to skip that area. So the idea of having a lip product with sunscreen is just kind of nice. I mean, once I was really aware of the fact that I was skipping that area, I made sure to apply it as I was applying the rest of my sunscreen in the morning. But throughout the day, I would just throw this on as I was reapplying my lip product, and the actual lip gloss formula is beautiful. It's so glossy, really smooth. So even if you aren't necessarily interested in a lip product with sunscreen, this formula is just great on its own. These don't smell like sunscreen to me. That's a question that would kind of come up as I talked about these throughout the last few months. I don't really smell any sunscreen, which is nice. And you do have to apply a good amount of this if you're using it as like your main sunscreen protection. But honestly, if you're someone who skips your lips, something is better than nothing. Obviously, you can try to be aware of it throughout the day as you're applying your sunscreen, but I just think these are an easy way to also protect your lips throughout the day. And the formula is really beautiful. So highly recommend these. The last product came out, I think, at the very end of 2023. So I know I talked about it a lot in 2024. I haven't been wearing lip stains as much over the last few months as I did maybe earlier in the year, but I still highly recommend this formula, the Milani Color Fetish Hydrating Lip Stain. There are so many expensive alternatives to this, and I think this one performs just as great as the higher end options. It's a very glossy lip product initially, so you get a really pretty shine. And then once that glossy layer wears off, you're left with a really beautiful stain throughout the day. I don't find this stain as long lasting as some other formulas I've tried, but it's so much more comfortable. Sometimes when you're wearing a lip stain, it just dries your lips out. It makes them look, dehydrated, and it enhances every single fine line. So in my opinion, like when I'm wearing a lip stain, it's not always the most flattering, but these are very moisturizing lip stains. So I like the fact that they feel comfortable and they look a lot better on the lips compared to, maybe a lip stain that will last a little bit longer, because in the end, these still last hours, and then I might reapply it because I want that glossy layer again, and then I get that added extra layer of stain too. So these are nice. My only complaint about these is they end up looking very similar on the lips. There are like berry shades and red shades, so you don't need a ton. I tried almost all of them because I purchased a few and then I got some in the mail as PR, and they all look, not all of them, but a lot of them end up looking very, very similar. So go with maybe one or two shades. And I don't know, I guess with stains, sometimes it's hard to get like a big variation because once that glossy layer wears off, a lot of the time a stain ends up looking kind of similar, but you just don't need all of them. So for eyes, I did do a video on my favorite eyeshadow palettes of the year, drugstore and high-end. I'll link it below. So I did touch on both of these palettes in that video, so I'll just talk about them quickly. But the ColourPop Precious Metals palette really impressed me. ColourPop used to make my favorite eyeshadow palettes ever. I had so many of them. I think I tried most of them over the years, but then over the last year or two, I just haven't really felt the need. Sometimes they're a little bit inconsistent, and at this point I feel like every time they launch a new palette, it looks kind of similar to something they had launched in the past. Anyway, they launched the Precious Metals palette, which isn't necessarily like the most unique color story, but this quality is amazing, and I like how it just has a mix of cool tones and warm tones. So no matter what type of neutral eyeshadow look you're doing, you really can create it with this palette. So I have this on my eyes today. I have this shade in the crease, or kind of like as a transition, this one in the crease, this one in the outer corner, and then all over the lid, I have a mix of, where did it go? This shade and this shade. I kind of went back and forth between the two, but this is a very, very beautiful palette. At this point, I can't speak for all of us, I guess I should say, a lot of us probably have quite a few neutral palettes in our collections. If you're at the point where a lot of your palettes are getting super old, or you've decluttered them over the years, and some of the newer neutral palette launches are appealing to you, but you don't necessarily want to spend the money on a higher end alternative, this is a great option. A couple of my favorite palettes this year were the Natasha Denona Bronze, Natasha Denona Golden, and then there was like a cooler toned one I mentioned. I think it was Huda Beauty's Icy Nude, or the Patrick Ta Major Dimension 3. I don't know. I was talking about them in my end of the year wrap up video, and I said this palette kind of encompasses the vibes of all four of those. So you don't You don't have to go high end when it comes to eyeshadow. I think we kind of all know that at this point. And I know this is a pretty large palette, but if you like the idea of having some different options, but not necessarily spending a ton on a lot of neutral palettes, I feel like this is a great option. And the quality does feel elevated compared to some of the other launches I've tried over the last few years. So I've really enjoyed this one. Same thing with this palette from LA Girl. I don't know if you really need another warm toned neutral palette in your collection, but if you do, or you're looking for a good option from the drugstore, this one is the Summer Nights palette, and it's great. I was really impressed by the quality. This is definitely a thinner, softer formula compared to ColourPop, so you're not going to get as intense of a look. I mean, the shimmers in here are pretty intense, but the matte shadows are a little bit softer on the eyes, so great for more of an everyday, softer look. But I think this is a nice option too. Really affordable, so if you're looking for one, just wanted to throw this out there. e.l.f. launched their Finest Fleck glitter eyeshadows kind of near the end of the year, and there was a lot of buzz surrounding this launch because people were comparing them to the Urban Decay Moon Dust shadows. They're definitely not the same as the Urban Decay Moon Dust shadows, but they're still a really good formula. They have a couple of different shades. I want to say 6 or 7. I always write it down. So they have 6 different shades and they retail for $6. So I really like these two. I love White Hot and then Champagne Showers. These look really pretty on the eyes, whether you're using them alone or on top of other eyeshadows to really enhance the look. I did try this shade and I don't know if I got a bad one or if the formula does vary. This one is Pop Off Pink. I'll swatch all 3 so you can see it. This one doesn't feel as nice as the other 2. It's almost a little bit more, I don't know, it's on the dry side. Like I don't get the same feel as the other 2. And I haven't tried the last 3 shades, so I'm not sure about those. I feel like I've heard pretty good things about them overall, but these are really nice if you just want like a super glittery look, you don't want to spend the money on a higher end alternative, and you don't like a really creamy shadow. I'm such a ColourPop Super Shock Shadow fan. Like ColourPop's Ritz is the most beautiful shade that's a really good alternative to Urban Decay's Space Cowboy, but some people don't like that creamy texture. They don't like that wet feeling shadow, and if that's you, this might be a better alternative. It gives you a really pretty pop of like a glittery shimmer on the eye, and it feels like a traditional powder shadow. So if that's what you're going for, you might really like these. They're $6, so obviously pretty inexpensive compared to a lot of other single shadows on the market. And I like that e.l.f. came out with these. Not a dupe, but just a nice option on their own. This is kind of random, but this had to make it into my favorites video because I really do think the formula is great. It's the e.l.f. Instant Lift Waterproof Brow Pencil. I usually buy most e.l.f. launches just to review them on my channel. I've been talking about e.l.f. for like at least the past 10 years. It's always been one of my favorite brands. So pretty much every time they launch something, I want to try it out. And even though I don't use brow pencils a lot, I was really impressed by this. I'm a brow gel brow pen fan. So I'll go in with brow gel to fill them in and then a brow pen to define them. But sometimes I need a brow pencil to kind of, you know, even out the crease a little bit, or maybe just go in and fill them in with something like this. And what I love about this formula is it's like a creamier texture. I almost describe it as like a pomade in a pencil. It's not your typical brow pencil. Like there's a little bit of tackiness to it. So I think it actually works really well to kind of shape and fill in the brows. Sometimes brow pencils are a little bit too waxy or they're too dry and they don't look natural in my brows. This one actually looks really great and it stays in place extremely well. Like it is the longest lasting brow pencil I've ever tried. When they say waterproof, they mean it. So if you have trouble with your brow products kind of, you know, fading throughout the day, or if you find that your eyebrows fall, this is a nice option. Even if you use a brow gel, it's kind of nice to have like that extra layer of hold. And I feel like this does a really great job. And it's super inexpensive. How much is it? It's $4. The last product I actually don't have with me because I used it up months ago and I didn't repurchase it, but I had to mention it. The CoverGirl Lash Blast Cleantopia Ultramarine Mascara. This is such a pretty color. And what am I trying to say? Like, I like the idea of colorful mascara, but I don't always like the way it looks on me. This is what I wish all colorful mascaras were like because it is so subtle, but it's there. So it's a really dark mascara with like a hint of blue. So basically, like if you're looking at someone straight on, it kind of looks like they have a normal mascara on, but then as they're like talking and moving their head, or if you're outside, it's just like there's a pop there, but you can't exactly place it. So it's like you're wearing black mascara, but there's a hint of blue, and it's just super flattering, really, really pretty. And I like that because I like colorful eyeshadow, I like colorful eyeliner, but sometimes you don't want something too intense. And I don't know, with mascara, I feel like when I'm wearing a colorful mascara, it doesn't define my lashes in the way I want. So I love this one because it adds volume, it adds drama. It looks like I have like a black mascara on, but there's just something there. It's so, so subtle. So if you do want like a truly blue mascara, that might not be the one to go for. But if you like the idea of like a very, I'm talking like incredibly subtle hint of color, it's just a fun mascara. Okay, let's finish up with the complexion products. So NYX had quite a few launches this year, just in general, but they did come out with some new base products. So let's start with these. These are from the new Face Glue Gripping line. So they did a primer and they also did a setting spray. These lock your makeup in. Like I'm talking 12-hour wear, your makeup will not fade, it will not smudge, it will not move. So if you are looking for like one of the longest lasting gripping primers, I really do think this is it. But the big issue is it is so incredibly sticky. I think they actually say online that it's like gripping without being sticky. It's so sticky. When you're initially applying this to the skin, you're like, okay, it's moisturizing. It doesn't really feel super gripping. It doesn't feel sticky, but once it dries down and it activates, it's super sticky. Even if I set my face in place with powder, like I can feel this on my skin. So it's not the most comfortable primer to wear, but it's very, very effective. So that's why I didn't make my initial video. It's not something I'm going to be reaching for all the time, but on days where I want my makeup to last, this is it. So I think this might be a little bit more ideal if you have dry skin. As someone with oily skin, I don't know, like even if I set my makeup with powder, I can still see that glow coming through, but not like the typical glow. It's like a very intense, almost wet looking glow. And I also feel like my skin gets oily throughout the day when I'm wearing this, but my makeup doesn't move. It doesn't fade. It's so strange, but I'm telling you, this locks it in place super well. So there are definitely people who would benefit from something like this. It's just not going to be my go-to primer, which is why it didn't make my initial video. And then the setting spray works really great too. This is not as sticky feeling as the face primer. This feels really moisturizing, but I don't feel like it's super tacky on the skin. Like it does dry down. And it helps to lock my makeup into place well. So just my thoughts on this line. I think they're really great, but you just have to know what you're getting into with this primer. NYX also launched a blurring sunscreen primer. I think this was at the very beginning of 2024, and I love this formula. If you like the idea of having like a primer, sunscreen, moisturizer all in one, I think you'll like this product. If you already have a good sunscreen that you love, I wouldn't say run out and buy this, but I know for a lot of people, they just don't work sunscreen into their routine regularly. Like if you're the type of person who knows you should be wearing sunscreen every day, but you don't like the feel of it, you don't like the way it makes your makeup wear, and even though you might not admit it, you just don't wear it every single day, try something like this because it's actually meant to prep your skin for makeup, but it also has sunscreen in it. So makeup actually wears really well on top of this product. It is smoothing, it's blurring, but it's also glowy, so it looks great on the skin, and you're also getting sun protection as well. I'm considering this a runner-up because I personally do have a lot of sunscreens I love, and so many sunscreens do wear really well under my makeup, so I don't think it's an absolute essential in my makeup routine, but it is something that I would reach for quite a bit because I liked it as a primer. I liked the added protection to my skin. Maybe I didn't apply enough sunscreen that day. It's always nice to be able to wear a product that wears well under makeup and also protects your skin. I have two products from Catrice. I tried the Aqua Splash Grip Hydrating Primer probably like a month or two ago, and this is nice. It's a gel feeling primer that feels kind of cool, a little bit refreshing on the skin, and it does dry down to a slight tacky finish. It's definitely not anywhere near as intense as this one from NYX. It's pretty subtle, but it provides like a light gripping feel to the skin. It's very, very hydrating. So if a hydrating primer is what you're looking for and you don't mind the added benefit of a slight tackiness, this is nice. I hesitate to even say that because I know so many people hate the idea of a sticky primer. And if that is you, but you still want something that will lock your makeup into place really well, I think you'll like this. It's not uncomfortable on the skin at all. And it does work to extend the wear of my makeup a little bit while still providing that nice hydrating feel. And then Catrice came out with their version of the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter a little bit later than some of the other brands. This is really nice. It's called their Soft Glam Filter Fluid. It looks pretty on the skin. In my opinion, it is so similar to the e.l.f. version of this product that I feel like you don't really need both, but it is something that I wanted to mention because I do think the quality is great. The packaging is beautiful, very luxurious, very high-end feeling. The Catrice line is maybe a little bit thinner than e.l.f.'s line, a little more natural on the skin. e.l.f.'s line does come with more shades. It's a little more expensive, but Catrice might be more easily accessible to you if you don't live in the US. So if you've wanted to try the e.l.f. version or the Charlotte Tilbury version, but you don't want to spend the money, I do think this is very, very close, almost identical to e.l.f., just a little bit thinner, which might actually appeal to you if you want something more on the natural side. So I think that is everything I wanted to talk about in today's video. My drugstore runners up. I actually, wait, is it runners up or runner ups? I don't know why that sounds so unnatural. Runners up? No, runners up. Yeah, my drugstore runners up. The second place products, the ones that almost made the top of my list that I still think are really great. So I tried so many good drugstore products this year. I can't imagine there are going to be better launches in 2025 than there were in 2024, but there probably will be. I actually already ordered a lot of the new drugstore launches for 2025. I don't know if I'm going to get to film that video before the holiday season. If I don't, it will be up at the very beginning of January, but I've actually started testing a couple of the products. So I might do it in like a speed review style video. I might do like a testing new makeup on camera. What do you prefer? I don't know how many of you are still watching at this point, but let me know in the comments. Do you like seeing the makeup tested out in real time, or do you like when the creator tests out the products ahead of time and then comes back and does full reviews? I usually do both. Like I'll test the products with you on camera and then come back a few weeks later, but I would love to hear your thoughts on the subject. Thanks again for watching. I'll link a couple of other end of the year wrap-up videos on the screen for you in case you want to check them out, and I'll see you in a few days with a new video. Bye.